So a little while back, I built this monster water-cooled computer. It's a dual system in the Phanteks Lux 2. We got an AMD system on the bottom with a Titan GPU, an Intel system on the top with a Titan GPU. But this system has been a little less than Titan, shall we say. A couple things have gone wrong. Some things aren't fitting right. It's not an all-out disaster, but I'm going to tell you guys a couple things that I liked about this build and a couple things that really went wrong. So let's get started. Hey guys, Tiago with Classical Technology here. Thank you for joining me for another video. If you like my content, remember to subscribe, smash that like button, leave a comment below. Have you ever had a build that you put together but you just didn't really love it after a while? So a little while back, I got this case and it actually sat around for a while until I envisioned a really cool build for it. And eventually I thought, let me make a really cool blacked out build. Take a look at this. So, okay, it looks really awesome. So how did the system hold up? I'm going to tell you guys a couple things that I really liked about the system and a couple things that I really didn't. All right, so the first thing, let's start with a negative. Look at this. The top panel literally just broke off. I tried to glue the pieces back, but it wouldn't really fit with the radiator that I have up here. It was a little bit too big. One day, the pieces just snapped off. Now, I do like this case. I think it offers a lot, but the build quality is a little bit lackluster in places, and that's why it broke so easily. But let's counterbalance a little bit of that piece breaking off with a little bit of positive. The case is really big and you can do a lot of really cool things with it. As you can see, AMD system on the bottom, Mini ITX, and an X299 Intel on the top. It's that classic battle of AMD versus Intel. And these are both Titan GPUs. This is going to be a newer Titan XP, and this is going to be the older Titan X Maxwell graphics card. Still a good card, but obviously well under the performance of the one on the top. Another thing that over time I really liked about this build, and I liked it initially as well, is just sort of the aesthetic of it. That really cool blacked out tubing. This is the EK water blocks, the zero maintenance, matte black tubing. I think it looks fantastic. The tubing itself never gave me any problems. It looks really good. Even, with these sort of chrome fittings, everything came out really nice. So that's definitely a positive. I got the black cables. So the aesthetics and the look of it, I did like, no regrets there. But to continue to another negative, the performance, while good, it didn't seem as good as it should be for having a 360 radiator on top and having a 480 on the front. Now, the performance of the top GPU was pretty much amazing, even with the fans running very silently with one single D5 pump. I mean, I was getting like 42C with a 23C ambient in the room. Top GPU is amazing. Bottom GPU, not so much. And I think since it's an older Maxwell design, I think the port in the graphics card is a little bit different. Nowadays, the flow order doesn't matter as much on a GPU, but I think back then, when this was around, it mattered a little bit more. So I think that most likely is affecting the temperatures, or maybe just the thermal paste got a little bit old since it's an older GPU. So I'm gonna have to take this GPU apart, sort of redo the thermal paste and make sure that I have the optimal routing for the tubing, just to make sure that the water is flowing properly and it's not going to give me any performance issues. Now, another thing I really didn't like about this particular build in this case, it looks cool, but it's extremely heavy. Like, I almost dropped the system once trying to move it. It's just ridiculously heavy. In fact, the other day I was moving it up on this table here in order to do a video on it, and I even hurt my back, it's so heavy. I think because you have the huge radiator in the front, on the top, this huge reservoir, it's just a lot of liquid. It becomes extremely heavy, and it's something that you really don't want to move all that often. So even though, yes, you can fit two systems in here, I think it might be easier to have two small cases with two separate systems instead of this one large, gigantic system. So for another positive thing, as I mentioned, the aesthetics are very sort of laid back. They're very understated. There's no RGB or very little RGB. You can see a little bit of lighting. But as a negative, there's no RGB. Even the fans, as you can see, the fans are just blacked out fans. I have this Be Quiet fan out. Fantastic fans. But the system is definitely very understated, and I did like that, but sometimes you do want a little bit more illumination, so I'm not too sure. I'm still on the fence. I did like the blacked out look, but sometimes I did wish that maybe some of the fans would light up a little bit more and give me more of like an interior view of the case. So now the question remains, what should I do with this system? It's obviously really powerful. I'm thinking for now, what I'm gonna do is take out the AMD Mini ITX system on the bottom and build this into a separate case, a very small case. I even thought about removing the water block from this Titan X Maxwell and putting back the air cooler on it, just to make sure to take care of any performance issues this may have introduced with older thermal paste, and then later on I could always put the water block back. So I'm thinking of turning this into like a legit Mini ITX system in a different case separately. And maybe I'll keep this one big system here, but instead of having a dual system, which was cool at first, but not as useful as I thought, to be honest, most likely I'm just gonna make it one huge water-cooled system. And I know it's gonna get heavier probably because I'm gonna put a radiator on the bottom full of liquid and fans, and that's definitely gonna be heavier than the motherboard and the CPU and the second graphics card. But I think it's gonna look really cool, no pun intended, and it's gonna cool this GPU a lot better. By doing that, we are going to free up some space here, so maybe I'll even put a second GPU here just to fill it out, or maybe even turn this one so it's vertical. So we'll see what we have to do, but I definitely have to get this top fixed. I'll see if I can maybe glue it back, or maybe even order a new piece for the top, because I like the case to look really nice and new, so it's a little bit disappointing that it broke so easily. Otherwise, I mean, it's been a pretty good build. I don't think I would do it this way again. In fact, I think when I redo it with liquid cooling as one system, I'm going to do hard tubing. As much as I like this tube, I just want a little bit different direction. You know, do really cool runs, bend the tubes. I think that's going to look fantastic. And then this is going to basically become like a big display for a water-cooled system, which is what it should be. I'm definitely going to keep that big reservoir. I really love that. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video on this update on this case. If you have any questions, let me know down in the comments, and I'll see you guys on the next video.